predictive, academic integrity, and avoiding plagiarism. And so tonight we just want to give you an idea of what plagiarism is and ways that you can examine maybe some of your writing and see how you can best avoid it by citing and summarizing and so forth. So to begin with, whenever you think about plagiarism or academic integrity, is there anything that comes to mind when you think about those words?
I think about how some people go on the internet and they copy and paste directly without citing.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, especially on college campuses. So we are definitely going to look at things like that, different examples, and how plagiarism can be intentional as well as intentional.
So these are basically two different definitions that we have here. And so according to the Oxford's Advanced Learner's Dictionary, integrity is defined as adherence to moral and ethical principles. And our North Carolina Central University handbook defines academic dishonesty as any conduct that is intended by the student to obtain for him or herself or for others an unfair or false evaluation in connection with any examination or other work for academic.
So here we have a couple of quotes on integrity. These quotes, I want you to just kind of give me some of your feedback. Our first quote is by Abraham Lincoln. It says, "You can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time." So when you think about that quote, what comes to mind? Is this a familiar quote to any of you? Have you heard this before? No.
Integrity is telling myself the truth, and honesty is telling the truth to other people. And that is by Spencer Johnson.
So with these two quotes here, we want you to understand how integrity really is about that character that you have. Integrity, especially with the second quote, is about what you know to hold, is about yourself. It's what you hold true. Maybe someone isn't actually sure of what you've done, but at the end of the day, that's what you have to live with, your personal character. Okay? And honesty, you're coming forth and you are presenting yourself to other people. But based on how you react to other people, the things that you do, how you act and what you say to them, that really determines your personal character or your integrity.
Here we have just a short YouTube video with different students, and I believe it's Boston University, just giving their thoughts about what plagiarism and academic integrity mean to them and their thoughts on it.
I don't think that plagiarism is a problem at BU more than it is at other schools per se, but I do think that it's something that's a problem in U.S. University. I don't think plagiarism is a problem at BU. I think especially at SMJ, I know we signed a strike academic code of conduct, and I think that really sets a standard of what our expectations are.
the video? Were there some things that kind of stood out to you, that were familiar to you?
The copy and paste is familiar. I know my teacher talked about that method as well. The one thing I didn't know is that you could plagiarize yourself.
Yeah. That was a really good point in the video. And like you said in the very beginning about the copy and paste things, that's so easy, especially now with the internet. And I think with this video, I wanted you all to really see some of the reactions, how students feel about what plagiarism is, how they define plagiarism, the extent to it. And one thing that was interesting that was mentioned in the video is that, you know, some students feel like instructors don't always know. But at a certain point, your instructor knows your writing. Your instructor has had a chance to kind of see how you write and compare it to other students, as well as making sure that, you know, your writing sounds different than what is seen online. So you can self-plagiarize, and that's that idea of maybe turning something in for one class and then turning it in for another class, like it's a different assignment. So that would be self-plagiarism. Now, do you think that it's more tempting? How many of you feel like it's more tempting for you to kind of just go copy maybe a few sentences or a phrase, just because we are in this digital age and it's so quick and it's so easy and you just don't have time? How many of you kind of feel tempted at times to do that? Okay, yeah. And that's just the age that we live in now. So it's easier, and at the same time, we have to think about this tracking, because it is a digital age. And your instructors can simply put things into the Google machine, and if something comes back, that can kind of alert them as well. Do you all feel like the risk, even if we are tempted, do you think that the risks outweigh the benefits, or the other way around? Do you think it's worth it? It's not worth it, right? Okay.
One student in this video said that instructors aren't as knowledgeable. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? No, don't agree. Do you think any of your instructors use plagiarism checkers like SafeToSign or TurnItIn.com?
Yeah. Those sound familiar to you. And so whenever they let you all know, okay, this was 65% plagiarized, how does it make you feel? Have any of you gotten responses like that from your instructors? Okay, that's good. So you all are doing good. So you're on the right track. Okay, good. All right. Now this was at Boston University, but these are issues that happen all across college campuses. Not just college campuses, but high schools, and just because research is not limited to colleges now, these issues arise even earlier than college.
So according to the Center for Academic Integrity, almost 80% of students admit to cheating at least once. And according to a poll by the U.S. News and World Reports, 90% believe those who cheat will not be caught or punished. So what do you guys think about those statistics? Do those shock anybody? What does that make you think?
Honestly, it's not shocking to me.
It sounds about right, realistically. Okay. So with those statistics, I mean, that really accounts for so many students. If we think about the number of students that are here on our campus, maybe like about 8,000 students, that's at least 6,400 students if we're looking at the statistics there. So that's over half of the school. And that's just those who have admitted to cheating. So there have been, of course, other instances. But those who have actually said that, at one point I cheated. So you could be sitting in class, and you could also be counting yourself. And we're going to talk later about different instances, but there seems to be a lot of pressure to just go ahead and copy something or use something and without citing it because of several reasons. Look at some reasons for plagiarism. Some of the reasons were addressed in the video that we actually saw, but these are some other things that were addressed. So we know poor time management was one. Lack of confidence in one's own writing. One thing that we also said was the idea or the assumption that the instructor may not know. They may not care. that you're actually writing in a particular style that's different from your own. Or this may be something that you're just not familiar with yet. You just don't know the certain styles that you have to use. So those are some popular reasons.
And here are some different forms of plagiarism. So, use of an assignment for multiple classes, that's the self-plagiarism we talked about. Inappropriate collaboration, that's working in groups, maybe it's supposed to be an individual assignment. Use of another's assignment for submission, and misrepresentation or invention of ideas.
So these reasons and these forms, can you kind of relate, or have you heard maybe other peers talk about some of these things? The pressures, I just really have to turn this assignment, I don't have time to cite this information, it's just easier, no one will know. That sound about right? Those excuses? Okay. So we know some of the reasons that happen, just part of life, balancing classes in life. We know some of the forms that they can take. What about looking at the long-term thing, the long-term results? So the consequences for plagiarism. Even though it may be easy in the short term, in the long term, these are some things that can happen as a result of plagiarizing. A failing grade for an assignment or course. Maybe you really took time, you stayed up all night to copy and paste, and then in the end, there's a failing grade for the course or the assignment. Some more extreme forms are suspension, expulsion. You can have an actual notation on your transcript that will affect you maybe getting into other schools. Can affect you when you're looking at jobs because they've seen that there's something not right with your academic record. And then just your negative reputation. So that can hurt maybe the worst because it's just the idea that, okay, this person is dishonest. And at the bottom it just says caution, maybe tempting to pass off someone else's words as your own. Resist the urge. So in the end, it's really not worth it because you have to look at things that can possibly happen. Maybe just your personal conscience is there.
They've said how to avoid plagiarism. So, understand the difference between common knowledge and research. So common knowledge is information that is so widely known that no research is needed. An example of that would be that Barack Obama is President of the United States. And research, on the other hand, is factual information that is supported by reputable resources. For example, Barack Obama was born August 4, 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii. And research is, acknowledge a source according to appropriate citation method that you are instructed to use. An example of these would be MLA, APA, Turbian, CSC, so on. And use resources like your instructor. Maybe go to them during their office hours. Or Produce Owl, writing labs, or come see us at the Writing and Speaking Studio.
Quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. How do these things take place? Okay. So just a few ways that we define them. Quoting. That's whenever you use the exact words or ideas of a source. You don't change it, it's word for word, nothing has been altered. And whenever you do use someone else's words, exactly how they are, you want to put those in quotation marks. Paraphrasing is when you use the ideas of someone else's, but maybe you change some words around. But the ideas are the same. And you can also use those in conjunction with quoting. There may be certain words or ideas that you want to pinpoint, and you still want to maybe add up or change some things around, but the idea is still someone else's. Summarizing is whenever you give the basic idea of maybe a passage or a story or something that happened, but you kind of sweep over the very specific details. So it's a little bit broader than whenever you quote or paraphrase. But all of these things share the idea that they have to be credited. Because all of these things belong to someone else, you want to make sure that you give them the proper credit. Just like if you had published a book, or if you worked hard on an assignment, or it was a group project, you wouldn't want somebody to steal that idea and not give you credit at all. So it's the same.
Example of two different citations for a particular quote. So education is the passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today. So here is an example of an incorrect citation. Like Malcolm X says, comma, education is the passport for the future, to the future, or tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And that would be wrong because you're not putting that in direct quotes. And it's a direct quotation from Malcolm X. So an example of how to cite that correctly would be to put in quotation marks saying Malcolm X says, comma, quotation mark, education is the passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So does anyone have any questions about that, or does that make sense?
So how many of you have, in this example, or using this example, how many of you have felt like you cited correctly on something? Okay, that's good. Just with what we went over briefly, these are some things to keep in mind. Remember that academic integrity and honesty are key to maintaining good character and a positive academic career. You also want to understand that plagiarism can help you understanding it can help you understand why it's committed and how to avoid it. Once you identify that it's being committed, you can learn ways or remember the tips to maybe cite ideas a little bit better. You want to keep in mind that citing ideas or words that you quote will help you to avoid consequences of plagiarism like failing or expulsion. These are long-term consequences. Because the citation styles vary, you want to make sure if you have to cite something that you get the correct citation method, maybe from your instructor. Quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing are all ways to help give credit where credit is due.
So these are just some keywords that we thought were helpful. Plagiarism, cite, paraphrase, format, academic integrity. Consult your instructor. Go to a writing lab. Credit your source. Quote, honesty, summarize what you're trying to say in your own words. Think about the consequences and keep in mind the different forms of citation that are available. Does anyone have any questions?
While we're completing the evaluations, I also want to we want to bring attention to the resources that we use for the presentation. We mentioned the OWL Purdue website. There's also Shepherd Library. They have resources like RefWorks and EndNotes that can help you, and Citation Machine. Some other universities, Indiana University, Colby College, just so you all will have additional sources to choose from.
And this is just the contact information for the writing and speaking studio. Our director is Dr. Karen Keaton Jackson, and we're located in the Taylor Education Building, room 102. And our phone number is 919-530-6035. And that should be on the flyer we handed out to you as well. And there is our website.